Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Monday, November 25th, 2024, and today we are kicking off talking about some seeds I save/breed, even as a professional grower. We're going to talk about pushing our first frost date back in the fall, and we'll get a special guest at the end of the show to talk about how to land your first seed contract. So let's do it. All right, I hope everyone had a great weekend. I harvested and washed some stuff, took my oldest son to the UK men's basketball game on Friday night, then watched a bunch of soccer on Saturday. Let's go Brighton. Played with the kids a lot all weekend, and they also played in my office a lot and used multi-$1,000 equipment for their fort, which was cute. And I put up a video on Sunday about going from homestead to farm business. Normal stuff in the life of Farmer Jesse, I suppose. I will link that video in the show notes for those of you who only hear this podcast and don't watch it on YouTube. Friday's video got a lot of comments from the stuff on Mars, and I figured that would be the case, and I also figured there would be some really smart comments on all sides of the idea of setting up satellite colonies on Mars, which was also the case because I have a very smart comment section. So although I haven't been able to respond to those like 100 comments, I really appreciate them. I've read through them and there's a lot of good stuff in there. I won't have time to get into those reactions today, but I'm sure I will at some point soon when I have time to do so thoughtfully and not just Farmer Jesse-ly. It's a thing. Because I think there are lots of interesting tidbits in there, so you should go back and check the comment section if you want some insight on how people feel about Mars. Yeah. Last bit of housekeeping. Last Wednesday, I released an episode of Growers Daily called Is There Too Much Growing Info plus How to Manage Slugs? That for some of you strictly podcast listeners was just a 4-minute hold song, which albeit somewhat amusing, was not intentional. I have no idea what happened there, but it is fixed now. So anyway, we try to double check everything, but sometimes something goes wrong. So shout out to Slew Side Farm on Instagram for letting us know. All right, so one of the things we're doing this week is that we're going to dedicate a lot of it to seeds. We're calling it Seed Week. Dan Brisebois, who you will hear from in the third segment of the show, has released a new book called The Seed Farmer that comes out this week, and I'm super excited about that because one of the things that makes Dan's work so special and important is that he brings seeds and market gardening together. Like, you don't have to be a seed producer or a market gardener or a seed saver and a gardener. You can be both. And moreover, Dan is often demonstrating and exploring how you can do both seed production and market production together. That's a lot of what his new book, The Seed Farmer, is about, and I love that. I love that seed production often gets relegated to this idea that it's only for either large-scale seed farms or small backyard gardeners who have the time to save their own seed. But that is just not inherently true, and Dan has developed systems on his large, primarily CSA-focused farm for saving and breeding and selling seed. And anyway, I'm excited to share his work a bit each day this week, except Thursday, which I will take off to be with family for Thanksgiving, which is a long day of cooking, but is a requisite for my favorite festival of the year, Turkey Sandwich Weekend. Anyway, we have been producing some of our seed for years on our farm, but not nearly enough and not on a production scale. But I'm definitely interested in pursuing seeds more seriously, especially as a farm product. The things that we have been producing or saving seed from over the years are things like our red burgundy okra. I think we have saved the seeds on that for something like 11 years. It could be 12, I'm not sure. So it's pretty well adapted to us here in Kentucky now. And as I was selecting plants from which I wanted to save seed, which is fairly easy, you just have to forget to harvest a few pods, and not to brag, but I'm pretty good at that. Anyway, as I was selecting, I was generally selecting for shorter plants because what often happens with okra is that it just gets too tall too fast. So it was fun to not only adapt that crop to our climate, but our harvesting needs as well. Another crop we have saved seed for on forever is garlic, obviously. It would be pretty expensive to buy all new garlic seed every year, I imagine. Seed garlic is often running around $20 to $30 a pound. I haven't really had to select for anything but size on our garlic since the garlic we got was so well adapted already to our area. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to get regionally adapted garlic, even if it's a little smaller and you have to breed it up. Like I mentioned in a previous episode, I grew some garlic from a friend out of California, and that garlic flat out hated it here. Like, it was almost complete crop loss right next to my regionally adapted garlic. Music is the variety we grow. That was over there like, what's up with the new kid? But what survived of that Cali garlic just went back into the ground. And this fall, it's getting its third growing season here. Basically, I've slowly adapted it, but it took a full season with nearly 90% crop loss the first season to even start. I'd actually be curious to hear if anyone in a wet region has ever received garlic that just flat out failed for them the first year for no obvious reason. Let me know. I think that's probably happens more than people realize. We've saved like heirloom tomatoes many a time, but I'm less interested in saving those for fear of transferring any diseases. Peppers, though, I'm all about that. We've actually bred a hot pepper that I call the Topper Popper, which is a medium large red hot pepper that looks a bit like a spinning top and is both sweet on the flesh and kind of spicy towards the top. This is the fourth generation, and in fact, that seed started at Dan Brisebois' place at Tournesol Farm in Quebec. The one thing I really want to work on is heat-tolerant lettuce for humid climates. That's my big project going into the next year. I need a good summer lettuce or two, preferably with the heat tolerance of Muir, but with smaller leaves that could fit into a salad mix better. That project will be a big part of next season for sure, and I can't wait. I also want to breed more peppers because peppers grow really well here, and I love growing peppers with a passion. Not that seed saving isn't hard, but I kind of view adding some seed production or seed contracts as a possible way to slow down on the hustle of market gardening as you get older. So perhaps starting now will give me better perspective and experience as I grow up. Anyway, yeah. Let me know what all seeds you produce or save, and I'm excited to dive a little into ways in which people can integrate seeds into their market gardens, and not just for regional adaptation, but potentially as a revenue generator. Would love to hear anybody who has started exploring the idea of selling seed from their farm. But up next, let's get a question from our Patreon members about pushing our frost date back, which is not a play on my last name, I don't think. Anyway, BRB. Today's episode of Growers Daily is brought to you by Johnny's Selected Seeds. When you need proven varieties you can count on and detailed guidance from seeding to harvest, consider Johnny's your trusted growing partner. Their same-day shipping can help keep your planting schedules on track when the unexpected happens. They're here to help you grow good food. Turning to Johnny's means you can plant high-quality, trial-proven varieties with confidence and know that their expert staff is ready to help with first-hand knowledge, because they've grown them themselves. Learn more at johnnyseeds.com. All right, back to the show. If you, the listener, are enjoying this podcast and want to show some support, you can do so over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to those Patreon questions. Today's question comes from Patreon member Tyler Quattrochi. Sorry, Tyler. I know I probably botch your name every time I say it, but they write, quote, I noticed the comment about pushing your frost date back 10 days. Is this simply in regard to harvest schedule for items that need that first frost, or has this allowed you to push planting and seeding dates 10 days later? I am only at 42 degrees north, and if I push back 10 days, which I could, for temperatures, I just don't think there is enough sunlight. End quote. Okay, so good questions. So in the Cover Crops Gone Wild plus Why Farming is Puzzling episode, which I will link in the show notes, I mentioned that it no longer frosts at the traditional first frost date here, which was October 1st. So does that mean I can change things about the way we farm? So for us, that first frost date has been, like I said, October 1st, but there has not been a frost before October 10th in the last 8 years. And even then, it's a stretch. It's probably okay to say October 15th as the earliest that it's likely to frost here, but if you never know. So planning for October 10th is fine. In fact, we have still not had a hard frost here, late November, though we did get a little snow last week, which was fun, until it quickly turned back into sleet and rain, which was less fun. And the forecast for next week is much more December-y. Anyway, all that means for me, in terms of how I change things around, is that maybe I can push my sweet potatoes a little harder in the fall, or plant them 1 or 2 weeks later if need be. Or it means I can expect to be harvesting certain things like tomatoes, basil, peppers, etc. out of the field for longer than I could a decade ago. Maybe that date gives me a little more confidence to plant one last round of squash in the field in early August, because it's possible I get a few more weeks out of the season. But like you mentioned, Tyler, it's only so valuable because the sunlight issue. And for you on the 42nd parallel, it's even worse than it is down here for me, because although our daylight dives quite a bit, our daylight down here on the 38th parallel doesn't dive quite as fast or as dramatically for us as it does for you. So the only positive to it is that we can perhaps get a couple more weeks out of stuff in the field that we may not normally. So no, I haven't and won't likely change much, if anything, about my planting beyond just having a little more confidence later in the season to plant up a bit more. Because even when it's warm, fruiting plants, which are generally the more cold-sensitive plants, are not necessarily producing more. They stall out as the sunlight dives, and even if the temperatures are reasonably warm like they were this year, they like warmer temperatures and more sunlight. Then foliage crops like the pea cover crop I mentioned can behave a little strange too. We planted our pea cover crop around September 15th like usual, but if it's going to be warmer and the frosts are going to come later, I could potentially push that back a bit. And I say that because this is especially true this year. With all the heat we had through November, the pea cover crop got tall, thin, and leggy, but not necessarily bulky and stout like I want it to. In fact, a lot of the pea biomass has gotten so tall that it has fallen into the pathways, which is not easy to clean up and put back onto the beds before a freeze, because the tendrils tie it all together. And so we are looking at some potential killing frosts next week, which would mean a lot of that nice pea mulch will be wasted in the paths and not on the bed surfaces. So anyway, we're trying to figure out how to better manage and account for that sort of spindly fall growth. But for now, I probably won't change anything dramatically yet, but I may start trialing a few later plantings. Like there was a field pea planting I did in one bed to kind of trial this, and that was at the end of September, not the middle of September. And that bed is in line with where I would want peas to be right now, but I'm not going to change my winter kill cover crop date just yet. That is the date at which I would plant things like field peas, until I've seen that same result over a few years. As our years and winters get warmer, we don't get an equal increase in sunlight, so it's not always beneficial in the way one might suspect. Plants need warmth, but they also need sunlight, so that fact complicates things quite a bit. Then, one year it could just randomly decide to freeze in early October. Weather is ornery like that. Anyway, great questions, Tyler. Up next, I've got Dan Brisebois, host of the Seed Farmer podcast and the author of the book, The Seed Farmer, coming on to talk about how to land your first seed contract. Be right back. Today's episode of Growers Daily is brought to you by Farmhand. I don't know about you, but I got into farming to be in the field growing food for my community, not creating elaborate pack lists, not writing newsletters or responding to emails, not designing and maintaining web stores, and etc. And I especially don't enjoy doing those things after an already full and fulfilling day of growing food. Actually, if I spent less time on my phone and behind the computer, that would be great. If only there were a solution for that. Enter Farmhand. Farmhand is the only all-in-one virtual assistant built by and for farmers. With one single platform, Farmhand enables you to offload your administrative tasks, send and manage communications, and sell more to your customers. Farmhand saves growers an average of 6 hours of administrative load each week. That's 6 hours so you can get back into the field, spend more time with friends or family, or have a life outside of the farm, which is actually a thing. Think about it. What would you do with an extra 6 hours a week? Sign up for a free trial with the link in the show notes, because now is the best time to dial in those systems for the next growing season. Follow the Farmhand link in the show notes to learn more. All right, back to the show. Okay, so welcome, Dan. Thanks for joining me. All week, we are celebrating the release of your new book, The Seed Farmer. Very excited about that. It is available at no-tillgrowers.com. We're doing that with a series of seed questions. Today's question, I was wondering, let's say someone wants to get a seed contract to sell their own seed. What does that process look like?
So to get well, I guess I should say thanks. It's great to be here. Next up, in terms of getting a seed contract, it's as simple as contacting a local seed company or a larger seed company that you might know and asking them if they take on seed growers for contracts. And then, so that's the easy part. The next part is they're going to ask you, do you have seed growing experience? And if you have grown seed, then it's going to be a lot easier to do the next steps, which would be to, like just to agree upon a crop that you might be growing for them, a quantity, a price, and those kind of things. If you have no seed growing experience, in that case, maybe one of two things could happen. One, they might ask you to grow some seed on your own and then come back later, or they might give you a trial seed crop, and that might be something that they need, like they need a lot of extra on, or like maybe you become a backup grower on something that they've already contracted for someone else, a variety that they might not mind having a lot in stock. And then if you don't fulfill your part of the contract, then they're not at loss. So that would be, I guess that's what happens if you didn't have that exit experience.
How do you find people that buy seed? Like who are the I don't know, seed buyers?
Um, I don't know about like naming names specifically, but I think any seed company has to get its seeds from somewhere, you know. So all the small bioregional seed companies are either growing the stuff themselves or sourcing from places in their area. So like start off, if you know the bioregional seed companies where you are, contact them first. And but also places like Johnny's High Mowing, Fedco, they buy from contract growers, and so there are openings too, but there might maybe not the first opening that you should jump into.
What about just producing seed and then talking to the contractor? Do you want to do it in the reverse? You want to talk to the contractor first and then produce seed, or do you want to bring them some seed and show them what you've got?
So, if you bring seed to a company and then offer to them, that's technically not a seed contract. So you're growing it on spec in that case, and that might work. Like so, we at Turnasol, we buy seed from contract growers, and we also buy seed from individuals who just happen to grow seed too. And so there's times where we might be low on a specific variety, and if we know somebody who happens to grow it, or if they offer it to us, we might be really excited about it. Now, if we've never bought seed from that person, we'll definitely do our due diligence to see if they have a reputation for having good seed. But there definitely is an opportunity. One of the things is like, so there is a way you can make money growing seed on contract or growing seed on spec and selling it to a seed company. But what's really important is the relationship building, and a seed company is taking a risk on you when they buy seed the first time, because they don't know about that variety specifically. They don't know about you. They don't know if the variety is going to be true to type and show what it's supposed to be, or is it going to be crossed up. The germ test, they can test that before they purchase it, but they're still taking a bit of a risk on you. And if it's a contract, then they also don't know if you're going to deliver. And so initially, most seed companies will probably get into this relationship with a bit of caution, because like when you're selling seed to home gardeners or market growers, you have a lot on the line, and one bad seed lot can ruin your reputation. And so the seed company knows that, and they're just going to approach this relationship cautiously. However, if it goes well, they're going to be excited to strengthen this relationship and go deeper. And so I think that if you are interested in growing seed for sale, then be willing to take the time to, for sure, develop the good expertise to grow good seed, but also develop the time to build that relationship with the seed client, with the seed contract, or with the seed grower, or with the seed company. Take that time to build this seed company, so that it's a strong relationship. And that's also for your own part. In most cases, the seed companies will pay you on time. They'll probably want to do a germ test first, but they will pay you on time, but they might not, and so you also have something to lose in that relationship too. So it's taking that time just makes it better for everybody.
And then, like, what are there expectations generally when it comes to turning the product in? Like, you're going to have it 100% clean, ready to pack and sell?
That'll depend on the seed company. I think there's a desire for you to have it pretty clean, but that might be like 95% clean as opposed to 100%. There's some things that are really tough for a small grower to get totally clean. And most seed companies might have a few tools that you don't, and they can get that last bit. But they'll probably expect there to be no like pods and chaff in there. So it might be little bits that are just too small for what you can get out with a home screen or a home fan. But they'll expect something pretty clean to come to them. And so the terms usually, so if it's a seed contract, the terms are going to probably be a specific quantity of seed at a specific price and with a specific minimum germination. And there'll also be usually an isolation distance set. So like how far it is from another crop of the same species. So those things will probably be, part of the contract or part of the questions asked about the seed that you have. And before getting to the last step of delivering the seed, something that's really, really valuable, like the way that you make a seed company fall in love with you is you communicate about how the crop is growing. If you plant the crop and it's doing well, you say you got the crops on the ground, they're doing good. If in the middle of the season, you have a crop failure with something that they're expecting from you, tell them immediately, because then they know that they won't get it from you. They have a chance to source it from somewhere else, but they also have a chance, like they could just make sure to not put it in their seed catalog, so that's just extra information that's really, really valuable for them. So the more communication you can have during the growing season, the more valuable you are, in addition to having good seed.
I love that. That's a great little tip. I love any tip that is like, here's how to make your customer happy. I feel like that's the same thing in vegetable growing too. Like, let's say a chef is expecting a certain thing. Like, the sooner that you can tell them, hey, this isn't looking so good, the better it is for them, so that they can start menu planning or sourcing it from a different person.
Yeah, that relationship is as much about the communication and the human interaction as it is about the end product.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Dan. I really appreciate it.
Been a blast.
All right. How awesome was that? I hope you enjoyed that chat and this episode. You can pick up a copy of Dan's new book, The Seed Farmer, at no-tillgrowers.com. Helps to support this work. And check out his podcast that we also produce called The Seed Farmer, wherever you get podcasts or by following the No-Till Growers Network. Otherwise, I'm going to end it there. Huge shout out to Willie Breeding for the theme music and the team at No-Till Growers. Sign up at patreon.com/no-till-growers to support our work, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or if you sign up in the month of November, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs today to Isaac Porter, A. Cassidy DVM, a Cassita DVM. I think the DVM is like a doctor of veterinary medicine, but could also be devious, vehement mother. No, probably the veterinary one. Joey Pilgrim, Alice Coleman, Ray Burgraff, Sally. Hi, Sally. Carrie Mandeville, which could be, maybe it's like Carrie Mandeville. I'm sure that's how you say it, right? Carrie Mandeville. Yeah, that one's right. Alex Shade. I'm not sure how to say that one, Alex, but good name. I feel like this has got kind of a musical vibe. Like it's like here it is. Here's the layout. This is a group in Memphis, and they find that there's a lot of kind of land within the city that they could be using, and they start all these really amazing little urban farms, and they start really supplying a lot of food to Memphis, and it's a very cool story. But it's very musical, and it's called Let's Get This Gardy Started. And funny enough, Andrew WK not only did the music but the choreography. It's wonderful. I think it's probably going to win some awards. Anyway, thanks for watching or listening. We'll see you tomorrow.